stand and join me in the opening words. Don't leave
your broken heart at the door. Bring it to the altar of life. Don't leave your anger behind. It has high standards, and the world needs vision. Bring them with you, and your joy and your passion. Bring your loving and your courage and your conviction. Bring your need for healing and your powers to heal. There is work to do, and all that we need to do is here. So let us come in and then reach beyond the walls of this church. Let us fill this sanctuary with love and then harness its power to stop oppression. Let us join together in worship, and together let us stand on the side of love.
Please join me in singing 126.
To this last Sunday, but we were a bit sparse. So Thursday was the Lunar New Year, beginning the year of the goat or sheep or ram, depending on which country you're celebrating it in. And this year I decided to answer a question that a lot of people have about the Chinese, the 12 animal cycle, and why the rat is the first and the cat isn't even on it at all. So this goes back to a story. And there are many different versions of this. Once upon a time, the 12 animals quarreled about the order of the cycle. Because everyone wanted to take the lead, no decision was made. Finally, the animals agreed to ask the Jade Emperor, the ruler of all gods in Chinese mythology, to decide the order. The Jade Emperor decreed to hold a competition. The animals would run across a river, and each animal's position in the cycle would be set by its place in the race. At that time, the cat and the rat were very close friends. The cat wanted to take up a position in the cycle, but he was a sleepyhead. So the cat told the rat to wake him up the next morning. The rat promised to do so, but the next morning he was so excited about the competition that he forgot to wake up the cat. All the other animals gathered at the bank of a river, and the race began. The rat jumped into the ox's ear without being noticed. Just as the ox was about to reach the opposite side of the river, the rat jumped out of his ear, won the race, and became the lead sign of the cycle. The ox became the second, and the others also reached the bank one after another. The pig, lazy and slow, ended up last. The cat didn't wake up until the race was over, but it was too late, and he was not able to make it into the cycle. From then on, the cat and the rat became enemies. Today, the cat hates the rat so much that every time they meet, the cat chases and tries to kill the rat. So I have this, and along with the Chinese New Year cycle here with all the different years and a little description of each animal. So, and we normally in Chinese New Year, you also do the red envelopes, which I did last year, where the elders or the older members of the congregation give red envelopes that usually have money in them to the younger members of the congregation. So this year we have Ricky here as our younger member. So Happy New Year.
Now I'm going to delight individual candles of joy and concern.
For community at large. Mr. Don. There we go. A bit old school, I guess. All right. Community at large. For those that protect and serve here and overseas, and for those who can't be with us here today. Oh. And a light one for Mr. Don. Haven't heard he's sick or anything. He just normally on this, when it's worse weather, he doesn't like to come out as much, so I'm sure he's got a few prayers.
My son and his family is doing well. They're doing well. The white one for the homeless couple at my house, Terry and Gary. The kitty cats, they took them outside yesterday in the snow for the first time. Also for our 4 nursing homes, Bob West, Joan Wisnam, Terry Pinkerton, and Louise Lunsford. I know that Will Klingle's father's in the same nursing home as Bob West, and so when Will goes to visit his father, he visits Bob, and he said he's had many conversations with him. Bob, as I understand, is mentally still very strong. Physically, he's tall. Thought he was about 83, he's about 88, I believe. Not certain. So we've got a number of people, 88, 90, and
to light this candle for Kathy and for her family. We're always so grateful, and Kathy's here with us. And this is for our church family.
I'm going to light 3 candles Bobby's last one be my first one, and that's for this church. First one that I'll talk to you about is my ex-wife's husband, who I went to school with. Probably you'll remember that he has Parkinson's disease. He was taken to the hospital Thursday, I believe, with urinary tract infection. And they did a CAT scan of his stomach on Friday, I think it was. Yes. And he has a perforation in his intestine, and he's not a candidate for surgery. So they're going to try to treat it with drugs, nothing by mouth for 5 to 7 days, just to see what he can do. They've asked her to change his code to comfort care code, and that would mean that should his heart stop, they would not do CPR and so forth. They'd just let him go. So it's very hard for her, and I don't know if she's made that decision fully. I know his sister's going in today. Brian and I are going to go there right after church. So that's the first one. Second one is my oldest daughter, 3 weeks tomorrow, fell on the ice. This is the nurse getting ready to go to work. Broke her ankle and has 5 screws and a plate in. She'll be off work 3 months, probably. But she's the best of the lot now, I think. My other daughter, Amy, had a suspicious mammogram and had a biopsy and began bleeding and had to go be pressurized this way by just nurses pushing on her for 45 minutes. They had to push so hard that they told her, if you can't breathe, put your hand up and we'll let up a minute. They put in a clip and then they took her to the camera again, and this clip was something about being able to see how the density is the next time she had a mammogram. They couldn't find the clip, so they had to put another clip in, and she began to bleed again. That time the pressure, though, only took 12 minutes. So she's going for a second biopsy within the next week or so. So that brings us up to date on my family. Brian and I have had very few Sundays off. We took, I think, about 2 Sundays off altogether. But we have found United Church of Christ. And I think I told you before, I've been going to a class on Monday nights. And if it weren't sponsored by the United Church of Christ, you would think it was Universalist. It's absolutely wonderful. I just walked right in and sat down in my place. And the minister is super. Brian goes with me, and we're enjoying it. So, good to see you all.
Let us pray. May I become, at all times, both now and forever, a protector for those without protection, a guide for those who have lost their way, a ship for those with oceans to cross, a bridge for those with rivers to cross, a sanctuary for those in danger, a lamp for those without light, a place of refuge for those who lack shelter, and a servant to all in need. Amen. For the gifts we are about to receive and the gifts which we ourselves are, may we be truly grateful. Yet more than that, may we be committed to using these gifts to make a difference in the world, to increase love and justice, to decrease hatred and oppression, to expand beloved community, to share and to keep sharing as long as ever we can. Amen. Will we have the offering, please? have a sheet in your bulletin. We gather in reverence for what is holy this day, bringing many names for the sacred.
From our common journey, we join as one community, one body of people, standing on the side of love.
Among us, the weary, the sick, the heartbroken, the joyful, the light of heart, the brave. One people in one circle of life, moved by the same spark.
In covenant together, we answer a call of justice, speaking out against oppression, reaching out to a wider world that teaches us, humbles and heals us as we work to heal it.
We give thanks for this call, O love, our source, though it's not always easy.
We arrive through these doors with many private burdens, with secrets and regrets. We are in need of forgiveness and in danger of despair.
A greater spirit, a greater story moves in this place, one in which our world may be reborn again and again anew, because the sacred dwells among us and blesses our yearning for wholeness.
Let us have the courage to go out into the world and change it, to bring the world into ourselves and be changed.
Let us speak out with courage and act with compassion.
May our journeys of the Spirit and of the mission always be life-affirming and for justice. However we may know you, as God, as truth, as love, let them be in your name.
Please join me in singing 148, Let Freedom Stand What We Select. Special music today is from the CD of chants I have from different religions. This is the Shema from the Judaism.
Today we have three readings from Martin Luther King Jr.'s 1967 address to the anti-war group clergy and laity concerned. When I speak of love, I am not speaking of some sentimental and weak response. I am speaking of that force which all of the great religions have seen as the supreme unifying principle of life. Love is somehow the key that unlocks the door which leads to ultimate reality. This Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Buddhist belief about ultimate reality is beautifully summed up in the first epistle of St. John. Let us love one another, for love is God, and everything that loves is born of God and knows God. Second, from Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from a Birmingham jail. But though I was initially disappointed at being categorized as an extremist, as I continued to think about the matter, I gradually gained a measure of satisfaction from the label. Was not Jesus an extremist for love? Love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. Was not Amos an extremist for justice? Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Was not Paul an extremist? I bear in my body the marks of the Lord Jesus. Was not Martin Luther an extremist? Here I stand, I cannot do otherwise, so help me God. And John Bunyan, I will stay in jail to the end of my days before I make a butchery of my conscience. And Abraham Lincoln, this nation cannot survive half slave and half free. And Thomas Jefferson, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. So the question is not whether we will be extremists, but what kind of extremists we will be. Will we be extremists for hate or for love? Will we be extremists for the preservation of injustice or the extension of justice? And finally, from 1 Corinthians. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, and I have not charity, I am become as sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. As though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith, so I could remove mountains and have not charity, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, and have not charity, it profiteth me nothing. Charity suffereth long and is kind. Charity and envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up. Charity does not behave unseemly, seeketh not its own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil, rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Charity never faileth, but where there be prophecies, they shall fail. Where there be tongues, they shall cease. Where there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect is come, then that which is part will be done away with. When I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I shall know, even as I am known. And now abideth faith, hope, and charity, these three. But the greatest of these is charity.
Thank you. We're going to pretend it's Valentine's Day. Every February 14th, across the United States and in other places around the world, candy, flowers, and gifts are exchanged between loved ones, all in the name of St. Valentine. But who is this mysterious saint, and where did these traditions come from? Find out about the history of this centuries-old holiday, from ancient Roman rituals to the customs of Victoria, England. The history of Valentine's Day and the story of its patron saint is shrouded in mystery. We do not know that February has long been celebrated as a month of romance, and that St. Valentine's Day, as we know it today, contains vestiges of both Christian and ancient Roman tradition. But who was St. Valentine, and how did he become associated with this ancient rite? The Catholic Church recognizes at least 3 different saints named Valentine or Valentinus, all of whom were martyred. One legend contends that Valentine was a priest who served during the 3rd century in Rome. When Emperor Claudius II decided that single men made better soldiers than those with wives and families, he outlawed marriage for young men. Valentine, realizing the injustice of the decree, defied Claudius and continued to perform marriages for young lovers in secret. When Valentine's actions were discovered, Claudius ordered that he be put to death. Other stories suggest that Valentine may have been killed for attempting to help Christians escape harsh Roman prisons, where they were often beaten and tortured. According to one legend, an imprisoned Valentine actually sent the first Valentine greeting himself after he fell in love with a young girl, possibly his jailer's daughter, who had visited him during his confinement. Before his death, it is alleged that he wrote her a letter signed, "From your Valentine," an expression that is still in use today. Although the truth behind the Valentine legends is murky, the stories all emphasize his appeal as a sympathetic, heroic, and mostly important romantic figure. By the Middle Ages, perhaps thanks to this reputation, Valentine would become one of the most popular saints in England and France. While some believe that Valentine's Day is celebrated in the middle of February to commemorate the anniversary of Valentine's death or burial, which probably occurred around AD 270, others claim that the Christian church may have decided to place St. Valentine's feast day in the middle of February in an effort to Christianize the pagan celebration of Lupercalia. Celebrated as the Ides of February, or February 15th, Lupercalia was a fertility festival dedicated to Faunus, the Roman god of agriculture, as well as to the Roman founders Romulus and Remus. To begin the festival, members of the Luperci, an order of Roman priests, would gather at a sacred cave where the infants Romulus and Remus, the founders of Rome, were believed to have been cared for by a she-wolf or lupa. The priest would sacrifice a goat for fertility and a dog for purification. They would then strip the goat's hide into strips, dip them in the sacrificial blood, and take them to the streets, gently slapping both women and crop fields with the goat hide. Far from being fearful, Roman women welcomed the touch of the hides because it was believed to make them more fertile in the coming year. Later in the day, according to legend, all the young women in the city would place their names in the big urn. The city's bachelors would each choose a name and become paired for the year with his chosen woman. These matches often ended in marriage. Lupercalia survived the initial rise of Christianity, but was outlawed as it was deemed unchristian at the end of the 5th century, when Pope Gallius declared February 14th St. Valentine's Day. It was not until much later, however, that the day became definitely associated with love. During the Middle Ages, it was commonly believed in France and England that February 14th was the beginning of the Byrd's mating season, which added to the idea that the middle of Valentine's Day should be a day for romance. Valentine's greetings were popular as far back as the Middle Ages, though written Valentines didn't begin to appear until after 1400. The oldest known Valentine still existent today was a poem written in 1415 by Charles, Duke of Orleans, to his wife while he was imprisoned in the Tower of London following his capture at the Battle of Agincourt. The greeting is now part of the manuscript collection of the British Library in London, England. Several years later, it is believed that King Henry V hired a writer named John Lydgate to compose a Valentine note to Catherine of Valois. In addition to the United States, Valentine's Day is celebrated in Canada, Mexico, the United Kingdom, France, and Australia. In Great Britain, Valentine's Day began to be popularly celebrated around the 17th century. By the middle of the 18th, it was common for friends and lovers of all social classes to exchange small tokens of affection or handwritten notes. And by 1900, printed cards began to replace written letters due to improvements in printing technology. Ready-made cards were an easy way for people to express their emotions in time when direct expression of one's feelings was discouraged. Cheaper postage rates also contributed to an increase in the popularity of sending Valentine's Day greetings. Americans probably began exchanging handmade valentines in the early 1700s. In 1840s, Esther A. Holland began selling the first mass-produced valentines in America. Holland, known as the mother of the Valentine, made elaborate creations with real lace, ribbons, and colorful pictures known as scrap. Today, according to the Greeting Card Association, an estimated 1 billion Valentine's Day cards were sent each year, making Valentine's Day the second largest card-sending holiday of the year. An estimated 2.6 billion cards were sent at Christmas. Women purchase approximately 85% of all Valentines. Where is our holy church? We are standing on the side of love. Many Unitarian Universalists suffer from a chronic identity crisis. People ask us, what does a Unitarian Universalist believe? And we freeze. We don't know what to say. Because Unitarian Universalists believe so many things, so many different things. We are priests of paradox, apostles of ambiguity, nattering nabobs of nuisance. And so, the Unitarian Universalist Association produces 7 principles and 6 sources and countless pamphlets and little wallet cards, all to remind us what we kind of sort of believe. We are exhorted to compose elevator speeches, summations of Unitarian Universalists, so pithy they might be recited on an elevator in its fleeting passage between floors. Do we believe in God? Question simple, answer impossible. Define God. Define believe. Define we. Define in. Whatever God is or is not, I don't think God cares what we believe. I don't think Jesus cares what we believe. And I know Buddha doesn't care what we believe. The important question is not what we believe, it's where we stand. I want to be standing on the side of love. Of course, when I say standing, I'm not talking about a physical posture. Rosa Parks stood on the side of love by remaining seated. I'm talking about a moral stance, not just assumed privately in our hearts, but witnessed boldly in our families and schools and workplaces and communities, at the State House, in the halls of Congress. I'm talking about faith in action. I'm not talking about sanctimony. I'm talking about intentionality. Understanding that our practice will be imperfect, as each of us is imperfect. What is our purpose? What is our aspiration? What is our commitment? When Unitarian Lydia Marie Child defied the prohibition of her time against women speaking in public and demanded freedom for enslaved African Americans and the vote for women, when she protested the Trail of Tears, the brutal removal of the Cherokee, she was standing on the side of love. When Unitarian Universalist minister Jim Reed heeded the call for Martin Luther King Jr. to Selma, Alabama, and was ballooned to death by racists, he was standing on the side of love. When at the height of the debate over same-sex marriage in Massachusetts, UU congregations voted to hang a banner over the church doors proclaiming it to every passerby, support marriage equality, we are standing on the side of love. By the way, did you hear that Massachusetts now has the lowest divorce rate in the country? In 2004, when same-sex marriage became legal, the divorce rate was 2.2 per 1,000. Since then, it's gone down to 2 per 1,000, the lowest level since World War II. Rachel Maddow says, it turns out gay marriage is a Defensive Marriage Act. Who knew? Standing on the side of love doesn't require power. It requires courage, because courage is power. When a child on a playground sticks up for another who is teased or bullied or left out because they're different, that child is standing on the side of love. The Unitarian Universalist Association has launched a Standing on the Side of Love campaign to confront exclusion and violence based on identity, be it sexual orientation, gender presentation, immigration status, race, class, religion, nationality, physical ability, or any other excuse for harassment. Standing on the side of love affirms the full humanity of all people. It honors the inherent worth and dignity, the spark of the divine in each and every person. Standing on the side of love means treating each other well, whether ally or adversary. Love is patient, wrote the Apostle Paul. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. Standing on the side of love means being more committed to being reconciled than to being right. Love does not insist on its own way. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. A religious person, Rabbi Abraham Herschel taught us, is one whose greatest passion is compassion, whose greatest strength is love in defiance of despair. His friend Martin Luther King added, I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear. There are times, though, when people are standing on the other side of love. This is tragic in many levels. Last week in Akron, 22-year-old Bree Golick was stabbed to death by her own father, simply for being a trans woman. Ohio police have arrested Bree's father, Kevin Kolick, for murder and domestic violence after he claimed Bree's cult was stealing from his home. Police were called to Kevin's house in Akron, Ohio around 10 p.m. last Friday night on reports of robbery. After receiving the following 911 call from the father, he said, they attacked us. They came into our house. I don't know who did. A bunch of them came in and attacked us in our house. Just bring an ambulance because I think he's dead. he's in a cult and all that shit. These guys came in, I fought them off, they got him, they got me. Upon arrival, authorities determined there was no break-in, rather a fatal altercation between the father and daughter. Apparently, the 52-year-old was so transphobic that he saw his daughter's gender identity as a justification for murder, while simultaneously trying to blame her fellow trans individuals for the crime. Since the attack, the Human Rights Campaign has released a statement on the untimely death saying, "What we do know is that Golick was a drummer and an artist, and that their gender presentation was at least occasionally feminine, and that their life was extinguished far too soon." The local Akron paper referred to Bree as male through all of the reporting. The national papers used the correct gender of female, honoring the gender. Bree's mother also refused to admit that Bree was transgender and did not want that brought up in any way at the funeral. We're sickened that people who identify as queer sometimes have to live in fear, but what's worse is that Bree is already the 7th transgender person to die violently in 2015, and we're not even 2 months in. Rest in peace, Bree. So when someone asks us what Unitarian Universalists believe, or why we're speaking out on gay rights, or immigration rights, or disability rights, or human rights, or why we bother to drag ourselves down to First Universalist Church at Westfield Center on a Sunday morning, let's tell them because we're standing on the side of love. Let us be the change we want. We must love intentionally. We must have an attitude of responsiveness. We must and we will be standing on the side of love. Amen and blessed be. Please stand and join me in 123, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, give me life, the shape of justice. Bruise hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Do we have any announcements this morning?